chilling blasts off Lake Superior often keep even the hardiest at home. But on a March weekend in 1988, all were gathered at nearby Miller Hill Mall for a long-awaited reunion of the famed Purple People Eaters, the Vikings' legendary front four.
First of all, this is John, Paul, Ringo, George, and who's that guy on the end over there? Oh, he's the ringleader.
How about adjusting to life after football? Was that tough for you guys?
It wasn't so bad for Jim because he played so long he started drawing his Social Security.
One of the things that I feel most proud of is that I had an opportunity to play with people that I know changed the game. I mean, we would simply stun the players. We'd put up. I mean, a lot of them didn't want to play against us. They virtually walk off the field because they couldn't stand up under the pressure.
And I look back over an entire career and see a lot of fun, see a lot of good times with great friends, and I guess when I think back on it, that's what I think about.
This is our thing, man. This is our thing. Get it in here, Gary. Look here, I ain't lying, baby. Let's win this one, baby. Let's win this one now. Let's go.
From the mid-60s to mid-70s, the Viking defense was magnificent indeed, and its spearhead was a ferocious front four: Jim Marshall, Gary Larsen, Carl Eller, and Alan Page. No one allowed fewer points over a 14-game season. And at one point in the 1969 Pro Bowl, the defensive line was the four members of the Purple Gang. They were the guardians of a far north frozen outpost. Hard men on a hard field. Defenders who played a bold brand of football. A game with a different look, a different feel, and a different sound.
1,000 rough, tough, and mean. 1/2 ton of hit and smack and sock and tear. 4 relentless men, all for one and one for all. As simply stated by Viking Captain Jim Marshall, the best plan is for the 4 of us to meet at the quarterback.
We had a feeling that when things were going well, that there was absolutely nothing that we couldn't do. There were times when we'd sit back if the offense wasn't scoring, says, okay, you know, we've got to go, we've got to score. We got to take the ball away from them, take it down the field and score. We'd go out sometimes and watch our offensive team practice, and we'd laugh. So we knew that there were things that we had to do.
I think Jim Marshall was the undisputed leader.
Watch out. Come on now. Hey, come on, baby. Come on, let's have a nice clean one, okay? Come on, we don't want to have a fighting and stuff, man.
He had some rough times. He had injuries. He had illnesses, many, many things. But whenever the gun sounded, Jim was ready to go, and you knew that.
Hey, don't break my leg.
Jim, I think you're ready.
I'm not dead.
For 19 seasons, Captain Jim led the charge. Number 70 was ultra-light and ultra-quick. He would survive countless skydives, a gunshot wound, and nearly freezing to death to play in a record 282 straight games. His toughest task was surviving practice collisions with teammate Carl Eller. Eller was huge. They called him Moose. He took his hot temper out on whatever was nearest, a blocking sled, a locker room, or all-pro Forrest Gregg.
I think that my greatest moment, without any hesitation for me, was the safety that I got on Roman Gabriel that led us to our first Super Bowl. It was particularly rewarding for me because I was playing across a guy named Bob Brown. He was a, stalwart in the National Football League and had been a ferocious competitor. And so that was a highlight of my career.
Gary Larsen, number 77, was a former Marine who always remained on guard duty.
When you have the whole defensive line going after a passer, the offense counters that by trying to run people up the middle on draws and screens to slow them down. We'd always have somebody watching for that type of a play, and it fell onto my shoulders more often than not.
Number 88, Alan Page, was the most spectacular of the group and its only Hall of Famer.
The only way that they could stop him was to hold him. I mean, he could line up, he had the freedom to line up virtually any place he wanted to up and down the line. And with his quickness, he was into a gap, and they stopped calling holding on the offensive lineman simply because he was disrupting the game. I mean, it was just play after play. They couldn't get the ball off. I mean, there were times we'd sit back and say, hey, they're not going to do anything. We're not going to let them even get a yard.
Page was the final ingredient of a defensive line that did more than hold its ground. They attacked, and they scored. For each sack, a man earned a bottle of Dom Perignon, bought to celebrate their conquests. Metropolitan Stadium was to be defended under any circumstance, and oh, how they loved their winter warriors, back then and today. When Doug Sutherland and the original Purple Gang arrived in Duluth to sign autographs, they were given a hero's welcome by fans young and old alike.
All right, for those of you who've just joined us, what's going on at center stage right now is the infamous Purple People Eaters are signing autographs.
Hello. How are you today? Fine.
For the generation who braved those frigid Sundays, it was a great family reunion. And for those who weren't around in years past, it was an opportunity to see face to face the men spoken of reverently over dinner and at firesides by their parents.
It was a very romantic time. We knew that when the sun dropped over the back end of Metropolitan Stadium that the temperature was going to drop 20 degrees. We waited for the reaction of our opponents. There was a feeling of togetherness, esprit de corps, a camaraderie that unsurpassed.
4 relentless men, all for one and one for all. As simply stated by Viking Captain Jim Marshall, the best plan is for the 4 of us to meet at the quarterback.
Didn't win every game.